So like our prep course that Kelly had just mentioned, I think last year we had 300 students who I think were like blocked out because they didn't finish the prep course or failed the prep course or didn't even try to complete it. And you know, that's a pretty big number, but those are kids that would have just been sitting in classes taking space up from students who were waiting to get in. So it's a pretty important thing. It just, yeah, it kind of weeds out the people who are not serious about
not
doing it.
Really committed to
And they're taking away a place from a student who is waiting to get in.
Do you have caps?
No, we're actually unlimited, so.
Yeah, it's been a big topic of discussion because we're getting such a big influx of students lately that teachers, we're at that point where we have to start adding a lot of sections now because our virtual classrooms are getting pretty big, and there's a lot of work that goes into these classes. So that's another thing that we're going to be adding more sections of the same class just because our numbers are getting so big so fast.
What if my English class only had like 15 students enrolled, but you had 38 in your maths? How do you do that as far
That's
as workload
what it
equity
is.
in that?
It's the same either way. A lot of our courses mark themselves, so an English class that's got a lower number, it actually kind of evens out the workload because a math class, for instance, the learning management system, the computer will correct a lot of the
Yes, but you
assignments.
can't in English.
No, you
No.
can't. So that's why it's been a big discussion this year. We don't have 80 students. We don't really have a magic number, but it doesn't really go over 40.
It's yeah, you know, it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
It's like a face-to-face school. I taught in a face-to-face school for a decade. I could have 35 kids in my class, and the classroom next door might have 22. It's just the way that it is. If a teacher here teaches 2 sections, and one class has 15 students and the other class has 45, that still evens out to 30-ish per class, right? So if you're teaching 2 classes, the numbers break down to about 30 a class, and that's, you know, where we, you know, that's the top end of where we want to be. So even if a teacher has 45 kids in a class, it might balance out with other classes that they're doing that don't necessarily have that many students in it.
And with our 150-day schedule, there's students finishing and joining at any point in time, so they're not going to have the same number.
Yeah.
Our physics teacher teaches physics 11 and 12, and sometimes he'll have more in physics 20 or 11, and sometimes he'll have more in 30, and like Ryan says, we try to even them out. But if it gets too big, then we'll add another section.
Yeah. Every class is so dynamic because on any given day you might have 2 students drop, or you might have 2 students register because you don't have to wait for the beginning of the semester. You can just start whenever you want. We're taking registrations constantly.
Going back to that quiz you